Hey, how's it going everyone? Here today with Griffith, Hawk of Light. This is the second SH.Figuarts release for Berserk. So last month we had Guts, who I still have here actually, so we'll get a little bit of a size comparison between them before I send off both of these figures to my friend. So just like the Guts review, if you saw that one there, I won't 100% take off all the packaging or the plastic protection from this figure, and since it isn't mine, my friend actually bought it. I picked up from my friend here in Japan, and then I'll ship it overseas. So I want to leave those little touches for him when he opens up a figure, because it's always fun opening up a new action figure. But before we actually check out Griffith in detail, I just want to say this box, I feel like Tamashii has definitely outdone themselves. It is very beautiful with that real water or pastel colouring for Griffith on his horse there, which is awesome. The only downside to this art is it makes me wish the horse was articulated, but we'll get into that a little bit later in the video. Now, if you're new to collecting SH.Figuarts because you're a huge Berserk fan, at the moment, since these are brand new, you don't have to worry about bootlegs, but maybe in the future they will float around. So if you're buying online, one thing to keep an eye out for is the Tamashii quality seal sticker. That is one thing that often a lot of bootlegs do miss. But yeah, if we swivel this box around, on the back we do have a nice showcasing of images for the accessories, faceplates, and that beautiful Majestic Horse that he does come with. So yeah, what we'll do now, we'll pop him out of this box, and then we'll check out what he does come with. So before we jump into the accessories, I do want to highlight that the back packaging is beautiful, just like Guts. We have the, this is the blue Baylet. I'm pretty sure I got the pronunciation right this time, thanks to all your help from the comments in the Guts video. If I did get it wrong, I do apologise, but I'm pretty sure everyone said it's pronounced Baylet. So if that is wrong or right, please let me know below. So yeah, if you missed my Guts review, you can check out my channel, but I know Berserk because I've got some friends who are huge fans of the series from the manga. They've been reading it for years. So I know of parts of it, but I've never dived into the manga myself. So there's a lot of stuff I'm a little bit unfamiliar with. So if I get anything wrong, or just share the information with me, please. Like, does the sword have a name? I'm not sure. But that is one beautiful accessory that he does come with. But for what he does come with, we have Griffith in the centre here, and the cape is already attached. It looks like a beautiful, maybe it's silk material or a synthetic type of silk. And then above we have his helmet, 2 additional faceplates. He also has an additional set of flowing hair on the back here, so I guess this could match well when he's sitting on the horse with the wind flowing through those beautiful hair of his. And for additional hands, we do have 5 down here, all with the chainmail look. I believe we've got the 2 here for holding onto the reins, which he does have 2 of, and I assume these ones are for holding onto his sword. Now for the sword, it is up here, and then we have the hilt as well, which will attach onto the sheath, which is already attached to him. I'm not sure what this part is, so we'll get a closer look at that soon, but maybe that attaches to his sword somewhere. And then, as I mentioned, he does have 2 different reins, so one for, I think, holding in each hand, and one just for a single-handed grip. And then yeah, the big Majestic Horse in the center. I guess the main question is, do you guys want the horse or not? It seems to be kind of split from what I've seen. A lot of people are like, yes, he needs that horse. And a lot of people are like, I would have just been satisfied with just Griffith. So definitely drop a comment below on which side of the argument you are on. But yeah, let's pop him out of the clamshell packaging, chuck him on the turntable, and then we can take a closer look at the overall finish for this release. Okay, so I've got Griffith turning around on the turntable here, and one thing I do want to point out, I have left in the plastic that goes around the top of his armor, and that does protect the packaging or the paint from scraping in transit. So I'll leave it on just so it runs safely to my friend. Now as he swings around, I do want to highlight the lovely sheen on the cape, and this does have a wire running all the way through it, so you can easily bend it and pose it so it looks like it's fluttering in the wind. When he swings around, you can probably see the lovely kind of purple bluish colour on the underside, which is lovely. And then the armour, just like Guts, high detail, it really does look like shining armour. The gold hilt for the sword is lovely, so these were the extra parts in the packaging, so it turns out this part attaches to the handle of the sword. That was a little fiddly to put on, I will mention, so be careful when doing that. The gold leaf or feather there looks really beautiful, which holds on his cape, and yeah, all the colouring is really nice. He's got the stirrups as well attached to his boots. They are kind of soft rubber, so do be careful though, because I can imagine if you push them too hard you may break them off. Yeah, the colouring of the hair is lovely. It's got a subtle blue tint to it, and definitely looks really nice. This is definitely a beautiful looking figure. I love the whole medieval look, and I feel like it does make me want to read Berserk, so I really should probably get onto that. Let me move him off to the side just a little bit, and then we can put his trusty steed up on the turntable instead. Now his horse, I'm not sure what the name of it is, so please drop a comment below. I'm sure he does have a name, but it looks really nice. We've got some extra colouring in his tail. The silver and gold is lovely, and it is in a fixed pose, which does seem really stable. I think this might be similar to the Fist of the North Star figures. I'm pretty sure there's an old release which came with a static or a fixed posed horse as well. It would have been really cool if this was like a Figma horse with articulation, but I imagine it would have driven the price up even higher. But his what's that, dressage, or you know, the his armor or his rug there is nice and soft, and everything does feel nice, so it will move a little bit, which is good, even for up and around the saddle. And the stirrup as well on soft rubber, and it is attached firmly. So overall I think the horse is looking really nice. I'm probably more on the side of having the horse is better than not. I think it's nice to get the extra accessories, and I feel like if I didn't include the horse this time, you'd probably never get him, unless the line does insanely well and they come out with multiple releases of every character. So for those that are huge fans of Berserk, I think it is great that we get the horse with this release. Okay, so moving over to articulation, first couple of points on a highlight is that his bangs do move, which is really cool, and same for the back of the hair. So this is on a single joint as well. I will say be careful if you're not used to these type of figures. In the past, figures with a single joint in the hair have been a little bit more delicate. Might have improved since then, but it's always something to keep in mind. Now I also want to point out, since I have left the plastic on underneath his neck, it may hinder the articulation just a little bit, but we should at least get a decent idea. Now going forward, the chin will kind of hit the armour, so it gets a couple of mil of range of motion, not too much. And then going back is definitely a lot better. We can kind of move the hair out, and he can look up a lot higher, which is nice. And then we can move those bangs down as well, to kind of match in with the look. Left and right swivel is really nice as well. You do have to be a little bit careful of the feathers here, as they may kind of hinder the motion just a little bit. We've got the left and right tilt going on as well, which is really good. So overall, the motion in the head region is nice. It's just that forward motion, or the forward range articulation, is a little bit more limited due to the chin and the armour design. Now the cape itself as well, as I mentioned earlier, a lovely flexi material with a wire in there. So you can kind of fold it, bend it, and have it draping around, which is good, and it won't really hinder the articulation. So what we can do, we can kind of bend this up and out of the way for now, and then we can come in and have a look at the shoulders. Now his left shoulder does have the extra armour flowing up, so that will get in the way just a little bit, but you know, going back is really nice, and then going forward as well is quite good. Just have to be careful with the sword, but it can lift up and around without any issue. Everything feels really nice and fluid, and we get a decent range of motion going forward. So surprisingly, considering he is in a suit of armour, really nice range of motion in the arms, and everything does feel super fluid and smooth. The inner joint as well blends in well, and then we also get some nice left and right action going on there. The armour on the side here is, I think, yeah, soft plastic, so it will bend and flex a little bit as well, which is nice. We also have the bicep swivel, which is nice, so very minuscule there, depending how far you want to push it, because he does have that unique armour design there, so if you push it too far, it'll start looking a little bit unnatural. And it's same with the other side as well. Now the elbow joint is actually surprisingly really good, so it gets a decent range of motion there, and then the elbow armour will flex up and down a little bit as well, so you can adjust this accordingly to match the pose you are after. The wrist peg is very standard and everything does feel nice, and he does get a decent range of motion there. There isn't really anything for his design which will hinder that range of motion. Oh, I popped his hand off. Okay, so this is very similar to that of Guts with a straight peg design, so very easy to change those hands. Coming into that torso range, one thing to point out is, especially with the sword attached, I will pop this off now actually, just so it's not in the way. The parts do come off kind of easy depending how you attach them, so a little bit more delicate compared to other figures, so just keep that in mind, especially with the arm down. But this is on a nice soft plastic, so it will flex and move out of the way without too many issues. Now the top part is one solid piece of armour, so we don't have that centre upper chest point of articulation, but on the just above the hips he does get a little bit of motion left and right, not too much, and same with going forward, a few millimetre here and there. Going back is definitely slightly better than forward, but you know, that is basically what you expect with this type of armour, without the extra joint there. I guess one alternative could have been gone with a full soft rubber top, something similar to the Dragon Ball Beast Gohan release, if you are familiar with that. Kind of has a full soft rubber torso area. The articulation is not great, but it does give you a little bit more than obviously a solid piece of plastic. Now coming down to the hip and leg area for Griffith, we do have some really nice thigh swivel action going on there. And one thing to point out, due to obviously the massive flare design for his armour, that will hinder the range of motion when doing the splits. But in saying that, you can kind of angle it so it will go more towards the front, and he can spread his legs out really far. So surprisingly, a really nice range of motion there. Going forward, you can probably angle it as well, so the armour will face downwards, so you can go forward really far. And then going back, not too bad, a little bit more limited compared to some figures, but overall pretty good actually. And same for the knee range here, fantastic range of motion, and the armour will move with it, and this is kind of soft flexy just like Guts. So compared to Guts, the range of motion on Griffith here in the lower area is definitely a lot nicer. Though with Guts, he does have a lot more satchels and bags all the way around his waist there, which does limit the range, or it does introduce points where the armour will clip onto and kind of hinder the range of motion. So the simplistic design for Griffith here works to his favour. Now down to his very pointy armour shoes, which are really cool. Nice peg there, decent range of motion up and down, and it can swivel left and right, and we have a decent toe tip point of articulation as well. I did mention earlier that these stirrups are soft plastic, so do be careful. I can imagine if you keep pushing them from one extreme to the other too much, they will snap off, so be very careful with those. Moving over to the faces now, this is the base face on, which is a very neutral look, real subtle pink tinge to his lips, with nice detailing for those eyes. I have seen a few comments online pointing out that this face looks really chubby, and especially when compared to older figure releases, which is very slim and slender. Now I haven't seen the anime, I've only seen images of this character from the manga, and I feel like this actually matches up really well. He doesn't look like your typical kind of skinny character. He does have a little bit of that baby fat look, a little bit of a plump prince look to him. And I feel like this here matches the art style really well. So if you're a big Berserk fan, definitely let me know in the comments below what you think, if the slightly chubby look for the face works for this character or not. So changing the face is straightforward. You pull the hair off like normal, but one thing that is very interesting is that the bangs are actually attached to the side of his faceplate, just above and in front of his ears. So that is definitely a unique way of doing it, and I guess that is how they give it the nice range of motion as well. Okay, so the second face here, I feel like it's pretty similar, but with a little bit more of a smirk going on. Again, I think the detail and the subtle pastel colours for the lips are really nice, and same with those eyes. Everything I think is looking really nice, and it matches up beautifully with the hair colouring. Now for the helmet face, you pop off the lower section for the helmet. That way it will allow you to slot in the faceplate like so. And then you can reattach the lower section of the helmet. That will slot in both to the helmet and to the lower section of the faceplate, and then you can just reattach it back to the body. So one thing that is great about this head or faceplate is the fact that you can have the helmet shut down and you can see the eyes through it, or you can actually lift up the visor to see the fringe of his hair along with his face with a subtle smile and the eyes. I think this one is really cool, probably my favourite actually. I think if I had this figure, I would definitely pose it with the helmet look. So while we have the other head off a body, I thought I'd showcase the other here. So this is the base one, which has the curls going out to the side, a bit more spread, whereas the other option is a bit more of a compact hair. So definitely really nice. It's good that we have a subtle difference. So I guess depending if you want more of a stationary pose or something that's a little bit more dramatic, you can switch this part out. Though personally, I think I like a bit more of a free-flowing look for the character when you have his helmet off. Okay, so moving over to the main accessory that it does come with, and that is his drawn sword. It uses the same, what's that part called? I guess the cover or the protector from the handle that will attach to a sheath. So you can just pop that off and take the cover off and attach it to the sword. Overall, the detailing on it is very nice. I love the gold and silver colour. The silver itself as well is subtly different to the armour colour, which is nice, whereas the armour has that, I feel like it's a real subtle blue tinge to it. The fact that you can bend and move the cape to how you please is really nice, and the colours, I think it's the sheen for this figure. Everything's shiny, kind of has a real nice metallic look to it, which is great. And definitely you kind of get all the detailing with the gold and silver. Very simple character design, but all the detailing is highlighted beautifully with this figure, especially with the crest on the front of his armour as well. Okay, so the main accessory for this release is obviously that beautiful Majestic Horse of his, and it looks really good. I feel like something like this just really brings the character together. It does come with 2 stirrups. These are a bit of a pain to put on actually, so I think this one is designed for holding with both hands, or we have one that's kind of already bunched up together so you can grip it with one hand. Now the way this works is you kind of slot it into the end of the white part, though I feel like the rubber or the plastic for this is a little bit too thick for the holes you get, so you kind of have to kind of squeeze it in. Once you've got it on, like I have it here now, it's okay, but it definitely is a little bit harder. It's a bit like changing the hands, just like guts. The first time you put the new hand on the pair is definitely a lot tighter than some other releases. So if it's a bit too tight for you, just warm it up first, get like a hairdryer or some warm water, that should do the trick. But overall he can kind of fit on there well in the saddle, and with his feet in the stirrups. So I think he's kind of set up a little bit higher at the moment, but if you kind of bend the knees, you can kind of drop him down a little bit lower. But yeah, overall I think he looks beautiful on the horse. Definitely drop a comment below what you think about this setup. So we have the Guts release from last month, as well as Full Power Go here for a little bit of a size comparison. Yeah, what do you think? Do you think the scaling for Guts and Griffith lines up? I'm not sure how it's exactly meant to be in the series, but from here it looks like Guts is definitely slightly bigger than Griffith. His shoulder height is definitely up around about his, cheek area, and then the head slightly higher, even though Griffith has that helmet on. But if we drop the helmet down a little bit, maybe it's a little bit easier to see the height difference. Okay, so time for those pros and cons, and straight off, I think the horse is a pro. I don't know, I just love the fact that you can actually have Griffith riding the horse, and it looks really cool. He fits on really well with the stirrups as well, which is definitely nice. The detailing as well is beautiful, from the armour on the horse to Griffith himself, especially with the gold and silver colouring for the sword as well as his armour. The cape is lovely as well. I love that pearl white on the back and that blue purplish colour for the inside. The fact that the helmet can lift up and down is really nice, so the versatility is great. The colouring, the pastel colours for the hair is lovely with that subtle blue tinge, and I like the unique design with the bangs being attached to the faceplate for the extra point of articulation. The articulation is surprisingly really good, especially in the lower region and the arms. The head pretty good, and the torso is basically what you'd expect. A little bit more articulation could have been nice, but I don't really feel like it's a massive con for this figure considering his armor design. Now in terms of cons, I don't have too much actually. The pegs for the hands a little bit hard to attach the first time, but it's not a huge problem. Once you've done it once or twice, it's okay. No articulation in the horse is a little bit of a disappointment. It would have been nice, even if it wasn't fully articulated. Maybe for the neck or a head or something along those lines could have been nice. Again though, that would have driven up the price, and this is already a pricey figure at around about 14,500 yen already. Yeah, I don't really have too many big cons for this figure. I'm not huge into Berserk, as I mentioned. I haven't read it or watched it, so I'm not really sure about the accuracy. But from the images I have seen, I feel like the slightly chubby face works well with this character, and it definitely looks nice in person. Maybe a little bit more range of emotion could have been good, but maybe this character is very stoic with these neutral faces. The way the sword works is nice, but it is fiddly. Maybe a slightly longer connector for the sword would have been nice, and same for the reins. Little wee things like that. Not a huge issue, but a subtle change could have made it a little bit more enjoyable when you play with this figure. But overall, solid release, and I like it a lot more than Guts actually. Guts looks badass, his armour, the colouring is beautiful, but he definitely still a little bit more of an outdated figure style, I feel, whereas Griffith here definitely has that newer style feel to it. So yeah, that is all for this review. Please drop comments below what you think about this release, how it stacks up to other Griffith figures, and basically the lines so far: Guts, Griffith, and we've got Berserker coming next year, I think Feb or March. Who else would you like? I know a lot of people are asking for Zod. Yeah, but what other characters from the Berserk line would you like to see from SHFiguarts? So yeah, anyway, again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, cheers!